So I went to Fashion Week, the whole 4 days. And for those wondering who the hell am I or what the hell is Myazine, you're gonna find out that I'm an imposter. Or at least that's how I felt there. So I'm gonna have 2 videos coming next, one on what people wore to Fashion Week with a bunch of outfits, and another one where I interviewed the models in the backstage. But today, I just want to show you what Fashion Week is really like. From a ton of footage of shows, interviews with designers. I think for most people, or at least for me, the fashion industry just seems super intimidating. We put all the people and events in pedestals, and it kind of feels like a parallel world where the real humans cannot enter. So today I want to try and demystify that. I'm also going to be talking about how I finessed my way into Fashion Week, but for now, let's start from the beginning. So, the first day started with the Fast Talks, which were 4 panels with 4 people each discussing the future of fashion, from digital fashion to sustainability, technology, communications. Here's a little bit of what we discussed, and if you get bored, you can jump into this timestamp.
Proud to say we only do digital fashion. Last year in October we launched what we call the Fabricant Studio. And the Fabricant Studio is a platform where anybody can create, can trade and can wear digital fashion. You choose a garment that is created by a fashion designer, and then you choose a material that is created by a material designer, and you decided to create your one unique garment. And then I can show off this in different metaverse experiences.
Farfetch is the platform, global platform for the luxury fashion industry. What we are doing is connecting creators, curators, and customers all around the globe at full-on scale.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm head of open innovation at Farfetch, so pretty much my day-to-day is engaging with incredible founders from startups that are building the next wave of experiences in digital fashion. So I actually studied economics and I loved it. I love studying economics. Having said that, I think what drew me really to fashion and technology is actually my family had businesses both in fashion and technology. So it's pretty much the intersection of 2 of my biggest passions, which is fashion and technology, and bringing innovation to this industry.
If you have good story making with a good storytelling, you are getting the business value. But the worst scenario, believe me, is when you have a great story making and you have not a good storytelling, you're losing money.
It's one thing to market something as eco, but it's another to really track it.
De facto, a natureza não precisa de nós, mas nós precisamos da natureza. Compra de 80.000 hectares nos Alpes franceses. A ideia é fazer um laboratório ao ar livre para, desde o cultivo, o picking e o processamento de todos os ingredientes, ser completamente sustentável.
I think it was Coco Chanel that once said that, fashion is not only about a dress. Fashion is in the style, fashion is in the street. Fashion is how you change the world through an idea and through self-confidence to create a new paradigm.
So after these panels, I spent some time filming people's outfits. I was completely alone, so I definitely felt a mixture between being out of place and also being at home, because I work freelance from home and sometimes it does get a bit solitary. After that, it was time for the first show. João Magalhães, who rolled the footage. One of the models was actually recording everything on his phone, which was being shared on the screen, so that angle gave a much more real and dynamic feeling to what was happening, and also allowed us to see the collection better. A bit about the designer. João grew up between Lisbon and London. He studied architecture and then moved into fashion. This gender-free collection was called Venus and the Solitary Cloud, and it basically says that he's representing the urban chaos. And yeah, that's a wrap-up for day 1. So day 2 was better because I got to meet a friend of mine from high school that is studying fashion design, and she also presented me to her friends. Though most of the time I wasn't hanging out with them because I was technically there at work. Whenever I felt my energy low and I needed to recharge and laugh, I would just sneak into their group and feel a lot better. You know, I'm not the type of person that loves being around people like all the time, but it can be kind of exhausting and intimidating to always be approaching strangers for 4 days being like, hey, can I film your outfit? Hey, can I like interview you? Now, obviously the behind the scenes awkwardness doesn't normally make it to the videos, but that's kind of what I'm trying to do here. Not taking the glamour out of things, but bringing more realness into it. So that's why I want to tell you how I got into Fashion Week and how all of that worked. So I'm currently in Portugal, and when the dates of Lisbon Fashion Week were released 2 months before the event, I started searching. Because you know, this is not the type of thing you buy a ticket for. There are no tickets, and so I literally started emailing everybody and their mother about my zine, showing the concept. The thing is, I probably sent around 50 emails. Everyone who did respond said that they could not give me an invite. So I kept talking to everyone, taking everyone's suggestions to contact the press companies, the sponsors of the event, stalking people on LinkedIn, until someone suggested me that I would talk to local newspapers and see if they wanted to do a sort of collaboration where I would film the content and they would give me the credential. And that's how 1 week before the event, I got a freaking credential that gave me access to all the shows and all the backstage. So moral of the story, when you're starting out in this type of things, you need to be the annoying person, talking to everyone, asking everyone, emailing, DMing, and calling. I hope this inspires you and encourages you. And now let's get back to the video. So, day 2, right? This day I gathered up the courage to enter the backstage, and then I interviewed the designer for the first show I attended, which is nyfw.
The biggest challenge was to find sustainable materials. Because we are, our concept is streetwear, but we are very concerned about sustainability, and there is not a very good offer in terms of sustainable materials, especially in Portugal still. But I think we made it, and I'm pleased with the result. I think it's very hard to reach the consumer and to make them realize the work that is put behind every piece. So, for example, you know, because it's design and it's more expensive, it means it's made with love and with people who take care of your clothes and like what they're doing and are paid, you know, well to make the pieces. And I think to translate that into the consumer is the hardest thing.
Are you wearing your line today?
Of course, yes. It's the new collection. This print is inspired on posters, like ripped posters from the street. I also designed the shoes along with the brand XE2 Thinkers. Hopefully you like the show.
So after the interview, it was time for the show. Duarte makes street dance with urban culture using sustainable materials. Her brand intends to redefine the concept of sustainable streetwear, and she is also an illustrator with 5 published books. Following up, I saw Behen, a brand by Joana Duarte. She aims to change the perception of the Portuguese traditional art by highlighting them in her collection. So she's always searching for antique textiles to upcycle into garments, and she often joins forces with local entities to fight the vanishing of knowledge related to textiles. The whole show, I was just looking at the pieces and wishing I could put them on my closet. So overall, I'd say this was one of my favorite collections. Anyways, last but not least, that day we had colorgrade, another gender-free collection where the pieces had their own sexuality. BJ Colorgrade is a Bosnian-born designer with a background in cinema and fashion, and she defines her language through reconstruction, urban culture, and arts.
What's the biggest challenge while designing the line?
Time. It was not enough time. There is a lot in tailoring.
Day 3. I was freaking dead by day 3. The shows were from 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. But yeah, I'm definitely not complaining. The day started out with Cravo Studios, a designer aimed to demystify the stereotype of masculinity, appealing to the validation of the vulnerability and fragility of all men. Following up, we had Inês Manuel Batista. She used repurposed fabrics and textile manipulations, and she focused on upcycling and repurposing second-hand and dead stock materials, which personally I loved seeing in a high couture fashion show. Filipe Augusto's collection was the materialization of a Portuguese legend. Then we had Luís Buchinho. His collection speaks for itself, and the aesthetic definitely stood out from the rest in my opinion. Cozinha. Fashion as symbolism. Clothing as a support of respect. Dresses that are gestures, dresses that tell a narrative of their own. That was a little text that they wrote about the collection, and I really liked it. Moving on, we had Ricardo Andres. His collection, Adults Only, is an exploration of personal narrative, functionality, sportswear, and movement. And then we had Luis Carvalho. His collection, named Return, presented a comeback to the cool urban style.
São 4 horas de muito stress a fazer as provas, a perceber se está tudo direito, mas são as melhores 4 horas que podemos ter, porque é super gratificante perceber o resultado do trabalho final. O maior desafio foi talvez interpretar o padrão, para fazer sentido para homem e mulher, não ficar demasiado masculino e pronto, integrá-lo na coleção.
So the last show was Hibu. Hibu by Magda Gonçalves designs genderless pieces with multidisciplinary references and a minimal, relaxed aesthetic. This collection took great inspiration from the 90s with its baggy looks, low-waist pants, and prints. I really liked this one because at the end of her show she invited all the models and people to dance and have fun, and it was very cool to actually see the models acting natural and smiling, and it gave the public more space to see the actual collection in a less formal way, and it just reflected that fashion is supposed to be fun and bring people together. Day 4. The last day started with me being pissed off. I woke up super early, got some client work done, did my makeup in a rush, ended up hating it, but I had to get out of the house to be in Fashion Week at 11 a.m. But then when I got there, I realized that the show, which just coincidentally was probably going to be one of my favorite shows because that was one of my favorite designers, was not at the place where I was. It was in another place, in another part of the city, and I had no time to get there, just to show that sometimes things don't go according to plan. So here are Sunday's shows. Monogama, the first one, played with the wearability of shapes and volumes. Models actually were from a lot of different ages and like physical looks, so it was different from the other shows and I really liked it. Then Carolina Machado presented a winter of opposites. She used materials such as eco-vero, recycled knits, and that stock of fabrics and accessories from past collections.
Hi. I think sometimes it's a bit hard to find inspiration to, it's 2 collections per year, so after a few years it's a little tricky to have some inspiration to create something new, which I think it's a bit impossible. We're always reinventing, right? But I think my main inspiration always comes from something cultural, whether it's a movie, a show that I've watched. I think maybe the pressure and definitely how hard it is to make the brand sustainable. It's a circle, right? You get money, then you invest, and then you create a new collection. It takes a few years to get into a good feat, but yeah, that was one of the things that I didn't think it was going to be so hard, but yeah.
Next up, we got After Checkmate, which was the team of Carlos Gil's collection. As he wrote himself, the world has become a battle where we all have a role to play. A game of strength, emotions, and overcoming. Next up, we got Gonçalo Peixoto. He represented the 20s euphoria through beads, glitter, sequins, lace. And then we got to the last show, Valentin Quaresma. After that, I ran to get my suitcase and catch the bus. And yeah, that's basically it. My scene is from people to people. And because I couldn't bring you all physically to Fashion Week, I wanted to bring it to you through this video. So yeah, if you're excited for the new ones, please make sure to subscribe, turn on the notifications bell, give this video a like, and I'll see you next week. Bye! I think I'll lose it again.